In the remote Alaskan town of Whittier, accessible only by a single tunnel, life was often harsh and isolation was the norm. The residents were used to the cold and the long, dark winters. But recently, something far more unsettling than the weather had begun to plague the town. People who had been declared clinically dead were coming back to life hours later. These returned residents had no memory of their death or the time that had passed. Dr. Elena Rossi, an epidemiologist from the CDC, arrived in Whittier to investigate. She had heard of strange phenomena before, but this was unprecedented. As she examined the revived individuals, she found no clear explanation. Their vitals were normal, their cognitive functions intact, but there was something off about them. They seemed stronger, faster, and their wounds healed at an accelerated rate. Elena's arrival in Whittier was met with a mixture of relief and skepticism. The townspeople were desperate for answers, but they were also wary of outsiders. Elena set up her base of operations in the small clinic, where she began her examinations and interviews. Elena's initial fascination quickly turned to concern. The resurrected individuals, while physically enhanced, displayed disturbing behavioral changes. They were becoming increasingly aggressive and paranoid. Elena knew she needed to understand the cause and implications of these changes before the situation escalated. Nate Townsend, a local fisherman, had lived in Whittier all his life. He had seen strange things on the sea, but nothing like this. When his sister Mia died in a fishing accident and came back to life, Nate couldn't believe it. At first he was relieved and grateful, but as Mia's behavior changed, his relief turned to fear. Mia was no longer the same. She was restless, easily agitated, and displayed an unusual strength. Nate's attempts to communicate with her were met with aggression. He knew something was terribly wrong and decided to seek out Elena for help. Nate had noticed unusual lights and increased military activity around an abandoned Cold War-era research facility on a nearby island. The facility had been shut down for decades, a relic of a bygone era. Yet now, it seemed to be operational again. Nate's curiosity led him to investigate further. He shared his findings with Elena, who was already baffled by the resurrections. Together they began to piece together a disturbing puzzle. The military presence and the strange occurrences in Whittier were connected. The island facility was at the heart of it all. Elena and Nate decided to conduct a covert investigation. Under the cover of darkness, they took a small boat and navigated to the island. As they approached, they saw the eerie glow of lights and heard the hum of machinery. The facility was alive with activity. Elena and Nate discovered that the resurrected individuals were host to a parasitic organism of unknown origin. This organism granted incredible abilities, but slowly eroded the host's humanity. The aggression and paranoia were side effects of the parasite taking control. Inside the facility, they found a lab filled with advanced equipment and research notes. They discovered that the parasite had a weakness. A specific frequency of ultraviolet light could destroy it. The notes detailed the origins of the parasite, revealing it to be a failed bioweapon experiment from the Cold War era. The military had tried to harness the parasite's abilities, but lost control. The parasites had been released into the environment, leading to the current crisis in Whittier. Elena and Nate knew they had to act fast to prevent the parasite from spreading further. The storm hit Whittier with ferocity. Snow piled high, and winds howled through the town. The tunnel, their only link to the outside world, was buried under an avalanche of snow and ice. The town was on its own. Elena and Nate set up a makeshift lab in the town's clinic. They needed to find a way to stop the parasite before it consumed everyone. But their resources were limited, and the infected residents were becoming more dangerous by the hour. The storm created additional challenges. Power outages were frequent, and the cold made it difficult to work. Despite the obstacles, Elena and Nate pressed on, knowing that time was running out. As they worked, Elena and Nate began to suspect that someone was orchestrating events from the shadows. The military activity and the sudden resurrection phenomenon and the reactivation of the research facility were all connected. The Lazarus strain might just be the first phase of a much larger, more terrifying plan. Elena's suspicions were confirmed when she found classified documents detailing a secret experiment. The documents revealed that the parasite was a result of a failed bioweapon. Experiment from the Cold War era. The military had tried to harness the parasite's abilities, but lost control. The documents also hinted at a larger plan to use the parasite to create a new breed of super soldiers. General Marcus, a high-ranking military officer, was the mastermind behind the experiment. He believed the parasite was the key to achieving his vision. With time running out, Elena and Nate knew they had to act. They devised a plan to infiltrate the island facility and find a way to neutralize the parasite. The journey to the island was perilous, but they had no choice. They navigated through the storm, evading infected residents and the military patrols guarding the facility. Inside, they found a lab filled with advanced equipment and research notes. They discovered that the parasite had a weakness. A specific frequency of ultraviolet light could destroy it. Using the equipment in the lab, they built a UV light device. The device was powerful enough to flood the entire facility with UV light, destroying the parasites, neutralizing the threat. Elena and Nate set up the UV light device, but as they prepared to activate it, they were confronted by General Marcus. He believed the parasite was the key to creating a new breed of super soldiers. A tense confrontation ensued. General Marcus tried to stop them, but Elena and Nate fought back. In the chaos, Nate managed to activate the UV light device, flooding the facility with intense light. The parasites inside the infected residents were destroyed and the threat was neutralized. General Marcus was caught in the UV light and succumbed to the parasite's weakness. With the immediate threat eliminated, Elena and Nate breathed a sigh of relief. With the storm subsiding, the tunnel was cleared, and communication with the outside world was restored. Reinforcements arrived, and the remaining infected were treated. The government tried to cover up the incident, but Elena and Nate ensured that the truth was revealed. Whittier slowly returned to normal, but the scars of the Lazarus strain remained. Elena continued her work as an epidemiologist, more determined than ever to prevent such disaster from happening again. Nate went back to fishing, cherishing every moment with his now recovered sister. The town held a memorial for those who had died and returned, acknowledging the bravery and resilience of the community. Elena and Nate were hailed as heroes for their efforts in uncovering the truth and stopping the parasite. As Elena and Nate parted ways, a sense of unease lingered. They knew that the Lazarus strain was just one of many hidden threats. Somewhere, in the shadows, new experiments were being conducted, and the fight to protect humanity was far from over. Elena returned to the CDC with a renewed sense of purpose. She vowed to continue her work and prevent future outbreaks. Nate, on the other hand, decided to stay in Whittier, keeping a vigilant eye on the town and its surroundings. One evening, as Nate looked out over the icy waters, he saw a strange light on the horizon. It was a reminder that the mysteries of the world were far from resolved. The Lazarus strain had been a wake-up call, and the fight against hidden threats was only beginning. The story of the Lazarus strain became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked experimentation and the resilience of the human spirit. Elena and Nate's actions had saved countless lives, but they knew the battle was not over. The town of Whittier rebuilt itself, stronger and more united than ever. The people learned to cherish their time and the bonds they shared. And as long as there were individuals like Elena and Nate, willing to stand up against the unknown, there was hope for a safer future. The Lazarus strain had been a terrifying ordeal, but it had also brought out the best in humanity. It showed that even in the face of unimaginable threats, courage, determination, and compassion could prevail. and with that knowledge, Elena and Nate continued their separate yet intertwined journeys, ever vigilant and ready for whatever challenges lay ahead.